Hello, but you probably have heard that we had a big flood over the weekend. 170 people have been killed. Many more are missing. I'm not sure how many, but the number I saw last time was approaching the 1,000 who are searched. And a lot of homes have been destroyed. They are underwater, entire houses, and we're talking not the American wood houses, but European stone built houses have collapsed under the enormous floods and the debris falling upon it and so on. So there is this huge catastrophe. It will cost us enormous money. I think entire towns won't be revived for a prolonged period of time. There are many areas that have been deindustrialized in the past over the past decades. A lot of industries have gone to China, etc. So they have relied on tourism. So it will take a long time to recreate something as basic and unimaginative as tourism. And I'm looking with a big deal of dismay at the suggestion that we resolve all economic issues with tourism, which is the slogan or the idea we are usually given by our politicians and media people whenever a factory closes. We are just supposed to rely on people traveling around and having dinner at your restaurant. That is supposed to replace what had been there as economic activity. We in a competition with Thailand, we in competition with Brazil and other sunnier and also interesting countries on the market of tourism. So this will have enormous economic impacts, and I'm not quite sure how we will handle. And of course, on top of all of this is the absurdity that they are doing everything in their power to also throttle tourism, because the left does not like any kind of economic activity. It gives too much power to the individual, and therefore we have this big climate debate. France has just banned inland flights if there are train connections that are feasible, that are faster than the plane. So you have not the choice between taking the train or taking the plane. They are banning flights, short distance flights for the entire country, and this comes with a lot of ramifications, I think, also for the long distance flights, because you cannot connect flights very easily anymore if you cannot cross from one airport to the other with a third flight in between. So this will probably come with additional costs and with additional downsides that are not advertised by by the people who are behind it. And all of this happens at the same time. I mean, all of this, we destroy tourism, we destroy travel, we destroy individual mobility. This comes with the claim that everything the left does, all this red taping, all this deindustrialization, can be fixed with tourism. As I mentioned, a flight ban in France is not the only assault on our economy in the name of climate. In the last week, we had a new agenda rolled out by the European Union called Fit for 55. I was already doing some research for that before the flood came, and I'm now having this very unstructured video because it's so much. It's so much. Even if I try to take a piece out of it and try to explain it and expand on it, it requires a lot of research. And I've already mentioned in my last video that that makes things very difficult. That I have to read everything on my own, and I don't really see people talking. I don't really see intelligence in the public being built up to the challenges ahead of us. So we have this Fit for 55, and there are first implementations of some anti-climate change legislation in France yesterday. And I was actually quite positively surprised on the weekend that our media was comparatively quiet about their suggestions, that everything has to do with human-made effects on the overall climate. And for the sake of my own integrity and related to it, my own credibility, I want to explicitly praise them for their modest attempts, for remaining modest in their attempts to link the catastrophe to the climate change. I think they have just made a little pause because they don't want to sound disrespectful when 170 people are dead, pronounced dead at this point, and so many homes are underwater, and so many lives have been destroyed, and people don't know how to continue their lives economically in that disaster. Also, the cost of all of it will probably precipitate in the inflation rates, because public funds will have to be used to remedy a part of the destruction. But individual citizens on the ground will also have to shoulder a lot, and I'm not quite sure how this would play out in the following years. As I've mentioned, entire structures are destroyed, and it's very unlikely that you can turn a heap of debris into a tourist zone that competes with Rio de Janeiro. And slowly you find the first articles talking about a potential link between the climate and this particular catastrophe. Most notably, the New York Times have written that there will be more of these catastrophes because of climate change, and their explanation was very short and crisp, and that is that heated air, and if the climate goes up, the atmosphere will be more heated, can contain more water. As I've already said in my last video, you have to investigate all of this on your own. How much is the climate even expected to change over what time? When will effects be reversed? Because also, that has always gone in ups and downs through all the eons of the Earth, and it will probably continue to do so. There are many factors, and the human contribution is only one of them. It might be a big one. I'm not even, I don't know. Like many of us, I'm just an ordinary citizen, and the media, the politicians, the education system, and the TV channels that are not news media but could actually provide additional information, they are doing very little to inform the public on those matters. So the idea in the New York Times article is that more water can be kept as a water vapor in the atmosphere, and when it cools down, it will also precipitate more at once, and therefore this is the explanation for this particular weather phenomena. First, you can never actually attribute one single event to the overall climate, because the climate is by definition a long-term development, and of course you can only say that something may come more often than it used to happen before. But you cannot say this event is the additional one because of the climate change. And secondly, they could actually have provided a bit more information, because there's apparently an entire science going into how much water can be stored at what volume, given the pressure, given the temperature, and given the particles, the material that floats in it, that can lead to dews and precipitation. So I would not research myself to death, given the proposals coming from the European Union, now this development coming from France, from President Macron. I would maybe look into this in more detail and give you an explanation of what I think is going to happen with the change of decree that is envisioned by 2050 or 2055, whatever they have in mind, etc., etc., etc. But I am kind of alone in this, and this is a big issue with the public debate right now. I can't actually dive in all of these aspects at the same time. So we are left with only this one line in the New York Times that says that heated air can keep more water than cooler air, and they don't make any attempt to educate their readers as to how that is, how the things are connected, why they would expect this to precipitate over Europe, because at the same time you also read articles. I've seen one at the German magazine Focus, for example, that spoke about droughts coming to Europe. So you either have more precipitation over Europe or you have droughts over Europe, and they really can't make up their minds what we will see. And I respect that they don't really know what will come, either droughts or more precipitation, more rainfall over Europe. But I would really like to see a scientist saying that it's more likely to be more droughts, versus a scientist that says it's more likely to that we see more rainfall. Maybe those two things are not mutually exclusive. Maybe the rain just comes in at a very limited period of time, like you would see in some desert areas, that you have this one time in the year, and then it comes down all at once. It can also happen, but I really would need to hear discussions about it. And it is not enough to read about it. You have to hear people discuss those things. And that is what is lacking. And this is actually the only political side I can really draw out of it, because otherwise it is a natural phenomenon. That was all for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.